Okay, I'm gonna get started here, and then ladies will come in when they come in. Kind of like, start wearing different hats. I think we like that. So it's only a foot. So we've been talking about faith, and we have, yes. This here is page 58. The 4 R's of the 4 R's of reformers. There we go. Recognize the power of faith, and we talked about what faith is, and then we talked about how powerful faith is. And I think Pastor just talked about this too, or Brother Clint, or Brother Mike. They just all come together with me. Hebrews 1:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, and faith is everything. We have to have faith. We don't operate. We don't have a relationship. We don't approach God by knowledge. We approach him with faith because we can't see him. We have to have faith. But again, like I said before, it's faith is substance. It's a real thing. It's not just this imagination. Substance of things hoped for, and the hope is not I'm wishing for. It's a sure hope. He makes promises and he delivers. That's a sure hope. And then the second one is faith depends on its object. I remember I used a chair the other day. You wouldn't sit on a chair, sit. You would not sit on a chair if in your mind you thought it would break when you sat on it. You just wouldn't do it. You don't even think about it. You see chair, you sit, and it holds you. You have faith in it, but you have faith in an object. A lot of times in the Christian circles, I said last time, I think we sometimes end up having faith in this idea of faith, and it's so ambiguous and not it's not a thing. We have to have something to have faith in, and we understand that God is a good something to have faith in. He's the creator of the entire universe. He is absolutely real, more real than we understand. It's not faith in the idea of God. It's faith in the substance of God. And God is very much substance. We've got to get away from this. A lot of times part of the trouble with, let's try this, maybe Pentecostal, charismatic, is it's faith in the feeling. Oh, I felt that. I felt this. And that's fine. Feelings are okay, but that's not what we build things on. We build things on faith. I know because he did this, and I know because he did this, and I believed and he did this. That's the kind of faith we have, not just this faith on feeling and faith on the idea of faith. That is not good. This one here is the depth of our faith is determined by the depth of our knowledge and the object in which we place our faith. The more I understand, I was thinking about chairs. Now, I think about chairs maybe different than other people do because I like to build chairs. And I've spent some time building chairs. I built a chair. I have a little chair at home that I thought, I'm going to build this chair. I'm not going to use any kind of metallic fasteners. I'm not going to use nails. I'm not going to use screws, nothing. But I want it to be strong. So I had to think through how the joints would hold the chair up, the joints themselves, the joining of the wood, so that when you put pressure on it, it held tighter and not came apart. And it was a lot of fun. I used dowels and different things like that. And some of the Japanese jointry is that I can't do, but they have interlocking joints where the more pressure you put on it, the tighter it holds. If you ever put your finger in one of those Chinese things and that you pull on, you can't get it out until you push on it and it'll come out. And that's how it's supposed to work. Is the more you expect of it, the more it gives. And so the more knowledge we have of a chair, I have faith in these chairs because I see the way they're built. I don't have nearly as much faith as some of the chairs in my room, right, Elijah? Those ones, because you sit on, because the bottoms are held on from the side like this. And if that fastener gives way, it goes down. These here, the bottom may come off, but as you sit on it, it presses down into the legs. I see that, and I say, that's a well-built chair. That will hold any person that sits on it within reason, okay? So if I know nothing about something, it's really hard for me to have faith in it. We're talking about faith. The more you know someone, the more you're able to have faith in them. The more you can have confidence in them. So we have to know God, and we have to know about God. It's good to, John 8:32, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And you shall know the truth. And I teach all the time. I just don't want to know about the truth. I don't want to just have knowledge of God. I had a lot of knowledge about God before I ever got saved, but I wasn't saved. I had absolutely no relationship. Steve Currington said, he got saved, but in high school, he had a lot of knowledge about God, but he had no relationship with God. It's good to know about God, but we also have to know God. We have to build a relationship. We have to have both. Because the more I know about him, the more I understand who and what he is. That's good. That's not enough. Building on that, I can have more relationship with him also. It's both, okay? We have to know about him. The more we know about him, the more we will understand him. The more we understand him, the closer relationship we can have. And it just keeps building. You think about this, if you're walking down the street somewhere with a small child, your child, and somebody that you never met before just walks up to you and says, hey, can I take your son or daughter over here to the mall for a while? You'd be like, no, I don't know you. Why would, what? Are you crazy? That would be crazy. If you didn't know them, you have no faith in them, you have no confidence. They may be a wonderful person. But you don't have any idea, okay? And that's what we think about faith sometimes. Just accept it. And God doesn't want us to just accept things. It's a reasonable faith. It's a sure faith, okay? To build a relationship with another person. I was thinking about. I have never watched one of these shows. I don't think I could do it. But there's all these shows on. I married a stranger, or what are some of these ones? What are the names of some of them? You meet, you get married.
Married at first sight.
Married at first sight. I mean, are you crazy? Are you serious? That makes that. Oh, they look very nice, and they seem very nice. Let's get married. No, and then you wonder why we have so much divorce. People don't spend any time building a relationship before they commit to this thing. That's not the way it works. It's not that I had fun with them and I had a lot of laughs. They're physically very attractive. That's nothing. I mean, that is literally less than nothing as far as having a relationship. We have to start in relationships. That's why our relationships are so messed up so many times. We never build a relationship. We just let's have a relationship. A relationship takes time. You have to get to know them. You have to let them get to know you. You have to open up to them. For somebody to get to know me, I have to be willing to get past this surface thing that's right out here that all of you see. I have to be willing to open up some of my dirty laundry, the places that are scary to me to let another person see. Because if they knew who I was, they'd say, oh, I don't like that, so I don't want to show it to them. I need to be willing to open that part of me up and be willing to maybe be hurt a little bit. And if they accept that real me, then maybe I could open up a little bit more of the real me. It's really hard to open up the real me because you're so open to hurt. That's why we put on a false front, because we feel like if they actually knew who we really were, they'd be horrified. Because kind of we're horrified of ourselves sometimes. And that's what building a relationship with another person is. That's why people that have a solid marriage, they have built peace at a time. A little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. And they're willing to peel away layers and layers. And they accept that the other person has faults. And that person has accepted their faults. And that can build faith. That can build trust. Because without trust, there can't be a relationship. And trust is not easily given. It's not lightly built. It takes time and effort. And between humans, that relationship is going to go along with places where the trust is broken. And we have to be able to accept that too and continue on, forgive, and to continue to build. Does that make sense? Relationship is not just poof, it's there. And it's the same with the relationship with God. And it's different because God doesn't have any bad part to him. We are the ones that have trouble opening ourselves up to God. It's not God doesn't have any trouble. God doesn't have anything to hide. He has no dirty laundry. But we've got a lot, and what we need to understand, and it's hard for us, and maybe intellectually we do, that God already knows that stuff, but still, we feel like we're going to hold things back. When God asked me to trust him, I know I should. But at the same time, my human nature is not comfortable with that until I know more about him. I understand if God is who he says he is, and I believe he is. But here, it's still so hard because the only thing I have to relate it to is a relationship with another human, and no human is like that. No human is absolutely trustworthy, but God is. And that's the only frame of reference we have. That's where we have trouble having a relationship with God. It's not that he's not worthy. It's hard for us to trust, even though we know up here that he is. But here, it's still hard. To be able to have confidence in him, I'm going to need to learn more about him. That's why the Bible is so important. If we can learn to read this as more than just words on a page, if we can learn to understand that this is God speaking to us, and find the reality that every time I read it, he says different things to me. He speaks to me. He has personality. It's not just the same thing over and over and over again. It's not just words on a page. This is literally God. When I get to that point, then I can learn to trust what's actually in here, because I realize it's a person, if you will, not a human, but a person talking to me. Somebody that is a person, not just words on a page. So to have confidence, I need to learn about him and get to know, have a relationship with him. And trust is not given just by knowledge, but it's also given by experience. When we were raising Cody was we got him as a foster son, and he lived in our house, and we adopted him, and he is our son. But when he first came into our house, we didn't know him for anything, and he didn't know us. And for us to be able to build a relationship with him, we had to build that. We had to build trust. We taught him, because he had almost zero ability to trust anyone, because his past experience was, don't trust anyone. Don't trust. That was how he lived. That was survival to him. I can't trust anyone except me. That was survival for him. I'm not saying it's right, and it wasn't, but that was what he had to do to get by. Because if he was willing to open himself up and trust, he would absolutely be destroyed over and over, and he was. So he had to close that off. And it's not blaming him, that's just what it was. So when he came into our home, we had to teach him how to trust, and teach him that we trusted him. So what we did is we talked to him. We used the example of a bank, and we said that you have an account with us, and it's called your trust bank. And as you show us that we're able to trust you, we will put trust into your bank. We'll put money to your account. And over time, the more you show us that you're worthy of trust, the more your account has in it. And it's kind of cool, because it's like interest in a bank, compound interest. The more you put in, the faster it grows, because there's more there. And we would talk to him about that all the time. And so he would build up trust in that bank. And so we were able to trust him more, because we could see his account, and we would point it out to him. And we would say, look, you've built up your account, and so we will allow you more freedom to make choices. And of course, we controlled the choices, and they were all good choices, but which one of these would you like? And we would give him more freedom in that sense. And then sometimes, inevitably, more often than not, in the future, in the start, he'd do something that went contrary to our trust. And we'd tell him that he'd withdrawn. He'd blown it. He'd pulled all of the trust out of the bank. And it wasn't like, oh, we're dead, we might as well stop now. He just had to start over again. And he had to start rebuilding that account. And it would take time. And remember, on this thing here, it takes a lot longer to build the trust than it does to blow the trust. I mean, just boom, and it can be gone. But it takes time to rebuild it. We got to be willing to do that, okay? And he would. And then something else we realized is that it went both ways. We didn't just have to trust him. He had to learn to trust us. And of course, we would say, well, obviously you can trust us. We're the parent. But because we're the parent, you can trust us. Or, because I'm your teacher, you should trust me. Or because I'm your authority, you should trust me. And that's just not true. As a parent, as a teacher, an authority, whatever you have to build trust. You have to be trustworthy also. You have to build up trust in their bank. He had to learn to trust us as we learn to trust him. And we could blow it just as easily as him. And I think that's one of the things that we had trouble with, that a lot of people in authority have trouble with, is because they go on the assumption that you trust me because I tell you to. Right? Hey, believe me. What is it they say? All the time, that's how you know it when somebody's lying, when they say, trust me on this. That means you're lying to me right there. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like when the preacher's preaching, he says, now, what does he says? I'm telling the truth. I'm not just preaching. I'm like, well, what is the rest of the time? I always wondered about that. That's not something you should say, because that's kind of saying the rest of the time I'm not telling the truth. That's preaching. That's not true. I don't know, something like that. But so it has to go both ways. And as adults, as authorities, as parents, as teachers, whatever, we need to understand that we can't just say, trust me, because it doesn't work that way. We have to be worthy of trust. And they have to have the same understanding. I'm not going to trust you until you show me that I can trust you. But as that trust is built, we can build a relationship. And again, humanly speaking, we have to allow, because Cody would blow it. But if we just put it back to zero every single time, we'd never have a relationship. The relationship didn't die when he blew the trust. We accepted that. And we would teach him that it's okay. You blew it. We all blow it. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. That's just what we do. But let's continue to build this thing. It didn't go it's a step backwards, but we still have to build it, and it goes backwards, and we build it. That's how we build relationships with each other. Okay, but the thing is, with God, we can absolutely trust him. We can, but we just don't feel it. We know in our mind, but emotionally, as Gibbs would say, in my gut, I'm not feeling it. I know I can, but this is what we operate on, not this. I don't know about you, but this, my heart, my gut, that's what I operate on, not my mind. I know, but I do, according to what I in here, that I feel safe doing, if you will, in my gut, in my heart. But once my heart begins to believe, see, that's why God's word. Thy word have I hid in my heart. Why? Thy word have I hid in my heart. What? That I might not sin against thee. The more God's word I can hide in my heart, and it is truth, it is absolute truth. The more I can hide, get in, have him right on the table of my heart, get his word into my heart, the more ability I have to trust him, that I might not sin against thee. I still will sin. But the more is here, the less I will. And that's an awesome verse. Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against thee. And it doesn't mean maybe, it means I'll do it less and less. And so we need to put more and more in there so that there's less and less of the sin coming out. And so that's convincing our heart that it's okay to trust God, to have faith in God. And we need to work on that. That's why we have to build faith. It's faith. All the different things. He is powerful. We recognize that he has power. The object is God. And I understand that God is God. There's no bad. It's all good. He's all powerful, all knowledgeable. That object is awesome. And the knowledge of it, the head knowledge, I understand that. But it's our heart that has to have knowledge. That's why we have to build our faith, because we have trouble trusting. Because of our sin nature. We know us, and that's the only thing we reference. And the cool part about God is, one of the cool parts about God is very cool, God understands us. He understands that we have trouble trusting him, and he's okay with that. So he builds trust with us, just like I should build trust with my students or my kids or you. I need to be trustworthy. I need to show that piece at a time. I can't just say, trust me. Because that's like, don't trust me. But I need to show. And that's what God does to us. He promises us things. Have you ever, I don't remember the number. There's an insane number of promises in his word. Personal promises from him to us. If you will, I will. If you will, I will. Those are promises. He challenges us. Hold me to that promise. Try me. I'll show you. Give it a shot. See if I won't. And we need to do that. Take a promise. I don't know, but okay, God, you said. You better show me. And that sounds kind of rude to say it like that to God, but he understands, and he wants us to. He wants us to prove him. He wants us to say, set it out there. That's what Gideon did. That's what Gideon did. Gideon said, well, God, I know you're real, but if you would just. And so God did. And he says, that was really awesome. Let's switch it around. Let's do it the other way. And God said, okay. And he did it. You with me? And then Gideon said, wow, I think I'll really trust him this time. I just was kind of saying it before. So God built his faith, built his trust, little at a time. He promises and he delivers. And then he promises bigger. And then he delivers bigger. And then he promises more and he delivers more. And our trust grows and our faith becomes stronger. And here's the thing, God will never blow his end. He's not like me. There's going to be a time, Rich, when I let you down. There just is. I apologize in advance, but it just is. I don't want to, because I'm human. But God's never going to do that to us, ever. I'm sorry, my back is killing me. I can hardly stand here. God is never going to do anything to cause us to withdraw our trust from his account. So we need to learn about him. We need to understand about him so we can trust him more. There's some things we have to remember that he tells us about himself. Number one, he says, and this is big time, because how many people have let you down? How many people have said to you, I'll be there, and they weren't? How many people have made you a promise and it just didn't happen? So God says, Hebrews 13:5, for he has said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. That's pretty big time. I will never. Even when you feel like he's not there, he's still there. Even when you feel like he's let you down, he hasn't. We got to get past that, because he's promised, I will never leave you nor forsake you. We can walk away from him. We can run away from him. We can throw him in the dirt. But even if we don't turn around, you understand he's still right there with us, ready all the time. He's never gone. He's always there. It's not up to us. It's up to him. Number two, all things work for good if we'll just love him. That's a promise. Romans 8:28, we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and to them that are called according to his purpose. All things work together for good, but it doesn't just stop there. To them that love God and to them that are called according to his purpose. Now, as Christians, we're all called, and watch this, but we don't all love him the way we're supposed to, because God spells love is really long. He spells it by obedience, and not just obedience, but willing obedience. That's how he rates our love, if you will. Because it's easy to say, I love you, but you can say I love you and show that you don't. And so it's not enough just to tell God, to profess. We have to live our love to him. We have to live our love to him. And what did Pastor say the other day? I keep getting this quote wrong. I loved it. He said, God's love, as God loves us, or God's love to us factors in our failure. He already knows our failure. And that is a part of his love for us. That's included in there. He's not expecting perfection from us. He's expecting us, broken, wounded, hurt, just to love him. Not to be perfect, but just to love him as best as we know how and learn how to do it better. That's all he wants. And that's what he wants. We can't just tell him. 1 John 5:2 says, by this we know that we love the children of God. Did I say that right? By this we know that we love the children of God, when we love God and keep his commandments. That's what it says. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. He says we're supposed to just keep his word. If he says it, let's do it. Don't whine about it. Or if you're going to whine, okay, just do it, but get over the whining too. But he wants us just to do it, that we keep his command. That's what love of God is. We have to live it. And I'll stop with this, but I think, this is one of those things people say as like, so I come over to your house and I'm getting ready to leave, and it's like I leave out the door, turn and say, love you, man. You're like, yeah, I love you too. I hate that. I hate that. I get the purpose of it, but that's not what love is. You know what I'm saying? And we say it so often and so many times it loses meaning. The same thing with a lot of the stuff, the Christian cliches I talk about all the time. We'll have a walk with the Lord, all these things. They have huge meaning, but when we just pop it off there, it loses meaning. And I'm not saying don't tell God you love him, and don't tell people that you love them when you do, but don't just throw it out there. We need to think about that word when we use it, and use it appropriately, or it tends to lose meaning. And it's the same with God. Hey, I love you, God. He says, so what are you doing? Yeah, did you just walk out of that bar? Stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you say that, but what are you doing? What are you thinking? Why are you treating that person like that if you love me? And God doesn't expect perfection from us, but he wants us to be real. He wants us to be as honest as we can. And love is spelled by willing obedience. Are you really trying to obey him? And that comes to me. Because he tells me all the time, he says, really? Did you just really do that? And you get up and stand and talk to these people and talk to your class and say all this wonderful spiritual stuff, and you did that? You had that attitude? You treated that person like that? Alan, come on. They don't work together. Because what you just did is told those people you don't love me because they watched your actions, not your words. And so but all things do work together. All God wants us is to do our best to love him, and that's including our failure. That's how he knows. And he can use and will use anything, all things, for his good and his glory. I got two of them out of there. We'll get to the other ones